Do you know what the first video game ever made was? And if your answer is yes, do you know how it was made? By the end of this video, you're going to realize something unexpected. Not just about the first video game, but about why it almost disappeared entirely. But before we go any further, if you'd like me to keep making stories like this and make them even better, subscribing really helps. It didn't come from a gaming company, it wasn't designed as entertainment, and it wasn't created by someone trying to invent a new medium. It began quietly inside a laboratory surrounded by machines that had nothing to do with games. At first, you don't even see the person behind it clearly, only a shadow moving across the room, adjusting equipment and watching a glowing screen. At the time, no one thought what he was doing mattered. To understand how video games began, you need to step back into a world where the idea of gaming didn't even exist. In the 1940s and the 1950s, computers were rare, powerful machines that filled entire rooms and demanded enormous amounts of energy just to function. They were built for precision and responsibility, not for creativity or interaction. These machines existed to solve problems far beyond human calculations, supporting scientific research and national level projects during a tense period of global history. To the people who worked with them, computers were instruments of necessity, not curiosity. In that environment, turning a computer into something playful would have sounded almost absurd. At a major research facility in the United States, scientists regularly opened their doors to the public. Visitors were invited to see the technology shaping the future, but instead of leaving inspired, many left confused. They walked past unfamiliar machines, listened to explanations filled with technical language, and struggled to connect with what they were seeing. The science was impressive, but distant. One person noticed this reaction. Instead of asking how the science could be explained more clearly, he wondered whether explanation itself was the problem. Maybe people didn't need more information. Maybe they needed experience. At first, all you see is a shadow, a figure moving slowly through the lab, surrounded by cables, switches, and softly glowing screens. He adjusted instruments, test signals, and watched his line shifts across a display. Nothing about the scene suggests entertainment. What he was working on looked small, temporary, almost insignificant, but it was built on a different way of thinking. The man behind that shadow was William Higginbotham. He wasn't an entertainer, and he wasn't interested in games. His work focused on radar systems and nuclear research, placing him firmly inside the most serious scientific efforts of the era. He was a physicist. For a public exhibition in 1958, he decided to use his skills in an unusual way, not to explain science, but to let people interact with it. Higginbotham worked with an oscilloscope, a device normally used to visualize electrical signals, and an analog computer capable of performing calculations in real time. On the oscilloscope screen, he created a simple scene, a line representing the ground and a small dot representing a ball. The idea was tennis, viewed from the side. When someone interacted with the controls, the computer calculated the ball's movement using basic physics. Gravity, timing, and trajectory were solved mathematically, and the result was drawn directly into the screen. Nothing was animated or simulated visually. What appeared was the direct outcome of equations being solved live. The entire experiment took only a few weeks to build. He called it Tennis for Two. When the exhibition opened, the reaction was immediate. Visitors gathered around the screen, waited for their turn, and became absorbed in what they were doing. People competed, laughed, and returned repeatedly throughout the day. Some ignored the rest of the exhibition entirely, choosing instead to stay near the game. For the first time in history, humans were interacting with the machine purely for enjoyment, without any practical purpose attached. Despite its popularity, Tennis for Two was never meant to last. When the exhibition ended, the equipment was taken apart and reused for other scientific work. The idea wasn't protected, recorded, or promoted. It simply returned to the background it came from. Over time, the experiment faded from memory. For years, it was barely mentioned, and its role in history went largely unnoticed. Today, Tennis for Two is often described as the first video game. but that description is still debated. Some historians argue that it doesn't fully qualify. It wasn't digital in the modern sense, couldn't be easily reprogrammed, and existed in only one place. According to that perspective, the real beginning of video games came later. In 1962, students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology created Spacewar. This time, the game ran on a digital computer and could be shared, modified, and expanded. As it spread between universities, the idea began to grow. The concept didn't fade away. It evolved. A decade later, those same ideas reached the public with the arrival of Pong. Video games left laboratories and entered everyday life. Every modern video game traces its origins back to the moment when no one was trying to invent entertainment. A simple interaction, a temporary excitement, a temporary experiment, and the decision not to treat it as something important. That's where it all began. Thank you, and subscribe for more.